minds around this stuff.
From a very complex, racially mixed background, could be fully Indian. That was a really hard concept for scholars to get their minds around.
Even if there's racial mixture, you can see the same face coming down generations. You know, even if the coloring is different or something, you know.
Strong
and
genes.
You can if you know the people.
We have every color that you can imagine in our community. But what makes us Wampanoag is the fact that our relatives did carry on aspects of our culture. Now we have our language again. That increases the amount that we can show who we are.
Some of them come past as Caucasian. They're definitely a people of a multi-racial looking color, which is when I say that they can pass for the Spaniards, the Northern Kingdom Spanish tribes or the other Gad tribes even, but they are Negro. The majority of them do descend from Negroid people. The Wampanoags, as you've seen, the image of Crispus Attucks are definitely of a Negroid people. Also, I want to go maybe a little bit into this Wampanoag video called The Wampanoag Way.
Wampanoag Way. Meet Tashima and Storum. They're sisters. They're members of the Wampanoag Tribe. The girls
definitely could pass for any tribe of Israel.
They go to school.
Fast forward a little bit to what
They
they
ride bikes.
admitted as well.
That's what some members of the tribe do at the Wampanoag home site. Let's go for a visit. We'll step back in time as the girls show us what life was like for the Wampanoag people in the 1620s. The Wampanoag have been living in the Northeast for thousands of years. They were the group of people that the Pilgrims met when they first arrived in America in 1620. They were the group of people that the Pilgrims met when they first arrived in America in 1620.
Once again, they were the people that met the so-called Pilgrims when they came into the Western Hemisphere in 1620. And I've read to where they had already known that the Pilgrims were going to come. All it would take is a little bit of knowledge of the covenant of the Most High's covenant to understand that He was for certain going to send His enemies, and the prophecies that these people were going to come to subdue the tribes. And as soon as they came, they befriended them. They helped them survive, sustain themselves, taught them how to live, taught them how to eat, to the point to where they even celebrate this thing today, as I've just read from the Google post where I had broken down from Google that they celebrate the first harvest, the first successful harvest, which was taught to them. Now I want to go into a couple precepts very quickly when going into to the enemies. Jeremiah 9 verse 4 says, "Take ye heed every one of his neighbor, and trust ye not in any brother." That I want to stress is trust ye not in any brother. Don't even trust me. Do the knowledge yourself and do all of the research and understanding the scriptures for yourself. Here in Micah 7 and 5 it says, "Trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom." So here it says, trust ye not in a friend or put any confidence in a guide. Even me guiding you into the knowledge of who the Dan tribe is and the people among us who are misleading our people. Don't just take my word for it. Research the scriptures, research history for yourselves. Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10, it says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like his iron rusteth, so is his wickedness." So for certain, trust should be an issue. You should question everything, and also you should do the research for yourself. All the research I've done into these things, I've done on my own. Not saying that you can't learn from other people, because I've done that myself. I've learned from certain camps and certain groups who I know for certain are falsehoods. And I know for certain that there's some of these teachings are false, but you can learn some things from some people. But really, when it comes to doing the knowledge and understanding of the Bible, you should do these things for yourself. I want to show and prove that these people actually coming out saying that we still live here. The Wampanoags, the different Cherokees and Choctaws who are coming out now and recognizing the fact that they're the Indians or are Indians or these Negro Indians who, if you go into the history, you can find out that they've been allies with the people who have been against us. They have joined a friendship and have consented with the beast, as written in Psalms. They consented with the thief. When they saw the thief, they consented with him. That this people is among us, and that it's a show of power for real. The fact that the Negroes, the Hispanics, and the Native Americans have no power in their hand whatsoever. That the enemies of our people, who have always been our enemies and have befriended the so-called Pilgrims and took them in and started this entire empire over here, the Second Roman Empire over here. These people were confederate against us the entire time. Since the time that these people have came, these people have been their allies. And right here in Deuteronomy 32 and 35, it says, "To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time. For the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. For the Most High shall judge his people and repent himself for his servants, when he seeth that their power is gone, and there is none shut up or left." So right now we live in a day to where the Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans have no power in their hand, no power whatsoever, to where we can have Wampanoags who have assisted the Pilgrims. We can have Choctaws and Chickasaws who have joined treaties with the Confederate South. They can come out now and say that these who they are. These are their forefathers. That they're black Indians, and there's a very strong movement of these Negro Indians. And this is a very much a show of a sign that we have no power in our hands whatsoever. To where all of our enemies can come out and tell you that we're your enemies, and we have been, or not necessarily say it like that, but they can come with the knowledge and the information that these were the descendants of our enemies. And that's a show of the fact that we have absolutely no power in our hands whatsoever. Because if you was to recognize in history, when we were a nation of people, and our people were actually a nation and not scattered and completely destroyed for lack of knowledge, if a nation of people was to awaken you to the knowledge that these people are the Wampanoags who helped you, who helped the so-called white man, that should be bring an enemy to the forefront. That brings an enemy to the forefront. But being the fact that we have no power in our hands, we have no education in our hands, we have no nation of people. This is very much a show and a sign of not just the end, but their calamity is at hand as well. So, the real truth about what is actually been celebrated here between the Wampanoags and the Pilgrims' first harvest, which is being celebrated today on this holiday of the heathen, is actually two serpents who have joined forces. Two serpents who have befriended each other. One serpent being written here in Revelation 12. If you go into verse number 3, and it says, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven." When you go into the understanding of this, and you understand that this is speaking of the so-called Edomites, or the red dragon who has been having this rulership, we know that we're in a so-called white man's world, as we understand that they have the power right now. This is the wonder in heaven, is a great red dragon, which also, if you go down into verse 9, it says, "And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan." This is that old serpent. What we're actually seeing when the world celebrates Thanksgiving are two serpents coming together. Because if you go here in Genesis 49 verse 17, it says, "Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heel, so that his rider shall fall backwards." Now, letting the Pilgrims into the land definitely is part of setting our people backwards. So this backwards ride that they've helped and assisted the old serpent called the devil, or the red dragon, is definitely pushing our people backwards, or has pushed our people backwards. It's part of the falling away of our people. But for certain, Thanksgiving is a celebration of two serpents who one helped the other, and now the other is helping the Dan tribe. They have been completely an ally to each other since the Pilgrims. So the real truth about Thanksgiving celebration can actually really go extremely deep into the scriptures and into the truth about what's going on today. And as I said, these serpent by the way and the adder in the path are alive and well today. They're still assisting the pilgrims. They're assisting the pilgrims in philosophies, in religion, in the CIA, helping the CIA control the black community as well as indigenous community. They're watching. They have been spies in history as well. Going into the Battle of 1812 with Tecumseh, the Choctaw and Chickasaws were actually spies for the Americans. And this image here, which is very much a false image, because if you was to really go into the truth of what the first Thanksgiving was, really it should be a much darker complexion of people with woollier hair who are Negroid. Many of them looking like the man who I showed you in the video before, in the Wampanoag video. They really should be like this man here, who had the dreadlocks and are of a Negroid people. So as I said, on this Thanksgiving in the tribe of Dan and the celebration that is being celebrated today can really go deep for real when you go into the real understanding of what's actually being celebrated and by whom. So since 1620, since the coming of these pilgrims, the tribe of Dan has been completely confederate against our people and confederate against the prosperity and our people moving forward into the kingdom of the Most High. And hopefully this information and this knowledge has been somewhat uplifting and educational to you and beneficial to your understanding of what's going on today. And with that, I want to say all praises to the Most High. Shalom, brothers and sisters.